Hello, Bobs. We're back with Bukowski in the Bathtub. Recollections of Charles Bukowski by John Thomas, collected and edited by Philomene Long. We skipped to chapter 6 because that's where we're at. I believe that's the cover photo from 1965, photo by John Bryan. 6. Battling Bukowski. Philomene holds up photo of John and Hank on the long prey. What were the circumstances surrounding this photo of you and Hank clinking beer cans, toasting one another? John, it was on the long prey. John Bryan took it. Bryan had to leave because he was going to be at a big love-in. He was then running that paper, Open City. He was going to go and cover the love-in for Open City and take photographs. That is why he had his camera with him. Then, I guess it was mid-morning, the following day after that photograph was taken. It was just the two of us in his living room over there on the long prey. And Bukowski wanted to spar Philomene. And how did he suggest that? John, I had given him some speed, and he was in the midst of some heroic narrative. Philomene about himself, John, about Bukowski, the pugilist, and I suppose I was chuckling at some of his gargantuan feats of fisticuffs. Philomene, I'm sure that word alone would have instigated it. Did you actually say fisticuffs? John, I'm sure I did. That's what speed will do to you. And he said, oh yeah? You laugh, huh? I can whip your ass, Big John. And I laughed some more. And he glowered dramatically and said, I'll whip your ass right now. I said, okay, and took off my wristwatch, and we got to it. Philomene, describe the fisticuffs. John, we boxed open hand. The way it went, we would get in diagonal corners of the room. And, amusing now that I recall it, his corner was the corner by his typewriter. We would come out of our corners to spar open-handed, and he was just terrible. Slow hands, and I would pop him. Philomene, I am sure that is not the way he would tell the story. John, it really happened, mimicking Hank's voice. Philomene, go on. John, we'd spar for maybe a minute. He was unable to touch me, not once. Then we retired into our corners. He would sit there in front of his typewriter, way out of breath. Philomene, of course. You were breathing with ease, right? John, yeah. And by the third round, he was wrecked. Huffing and blowing, came wallowing out and almost fell on me. So I picked him up by the belt and under his armpit, threw him across the back of my neck, walked over and heaved him onto his couch. He landed on his back on the couch, puffing and blowing and groaning. Philomene, saying he won the fight? John, no. I sat there and I read for a while, maybe half an hour until he was able to get up again. I gave him some more Diaxamil. Then he drove me home to Echo Park and collapsed on my couch, fell asleep, snoring very loudly. Slept there on the couch for about 4 hours snoring. Philomene, what did his snore sound like? John, almost like a burlesque snore, a lot of snorts and snuffles. Actually, I have that on tape. I made that tape montage. I told you about that, didn't I? Philomene, it was the end of the world and somebody was snoring, something like that. John, no, this is another one. The car crash of the century. Philomene, do you still have that? John, somewhere on the tape I keep saying, Hank, are you awake? There is the sound of his snoring and finally the sound of a car crash, which is on a loop, so that the car crash grinds on for about a minute. He loved that tape. Philomene, can you find that one? John, no, but listen to this one in Hank's apartment, August 1969, on DeLong Prairie. Hank, I wish I could remember a fight. I won sometime. John, I never lost one, except a wrestling match. Hank, oh yeah, I decked a guy with one punch one time. Yeah, I guess it was an accident. John, your father? Hank, oh yeah, that's 2 guys I've decked. Yeah, Jesus. John, one punch that counts, Ken. One punch that counts, Ken. Hank, both were uppercuts. John, uppercuts. Hank, uppercuts, yeah. Begins to mime the movements. You're down like this and you come on up. Your head's down. You just guess where the chin is. But if you hit, you've all that leverage. They go down. They don't use uppercuts anymore. You don't get that close in, I guess. John, yeah, it's a damn good punch. Hank, My two victories. Remember, I'm going on to my 49th birthday now. I think I'm going to hang up my gloves. John, that's when a lot of the late 30ish types will think to hit on you, you know? Hank, now I've got an excuse, you know. I step out of the car at an accident, and the guy's hot, and he says, "Oh, he's an old man. I won't hit him." And I'll go, okay. John, take up wearing garters and carry a knife in one of them. Hank, the minute that he turns his back, I clip him over the ear, laughs. I don't like to see two guys fight. I saw a wino, you know, a real wino, in an alley fighting a sober guy. The wino was ripping his shirt and screaming out of his mind. He said, "I'll kill you if I ever get my hands on you." But he couldn't. The other guy kept hitting him. I just got sick to my stomach. The wino wouldn't go down. The guy couldn't do anything with him. John, that's another thing about drunks, man. It's hell. Like a solid built, not strong, but just a sturdy built drunk. It was one of my earliest fights with a grown man, big, hulking Swedish cat, a sailor, and he came at me and he grabbed me around the throat. That didn't bother me. "You break it, come up like that," gestures with clasped hands. Hank, "You do, yeah." John, "Well, I was wrestling right then too, Loyola College wrestling team, a heavyweight. I was at the top of my form. Came down out the bridge of his nose, on the bridge of his nose, and broke it." Hank, "Don't mean a thing to us." John, "He stepped back and he came again and I caught him clip, 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 you know." Hank, "They don't feel it." John, "And finally he was leaning against me, so I shoved him. He went reeling, caught himself on the water fountain, then went slipping down." Hank, John, "I couldn't knock the mother out to save my ass. I finally wore him out to where he couldn't haul himself up that water fountain anymore." Hank, "Ha ha ha, shit." John, "He hurt the next day. Man, his face was beautiful." Hank, "Purple face." John, "No, it wasn't purple yet. It was still red and swollen." Hank, "Lips, thick lips." John, "Swollen lips. Shit. Split lips, man. I split his lips. At least 4 splits, and a good healthy cut over the eyebrow. One eye completely shut. The other eye had red where the white should be." Hank, "You were always an artist, John." John, "Plus the broken nose and the ruined set of navy whites." Hank, "You know all you did to that man?" John, "We were the best of friends after that." Hank, "You lent character to his face." John, "I don't begrudge him that character." Hank, laughing, "He earned it." John Thomas and Charles Bukowski, 1980. Photo courtesy of Michael Monfort. This is some literary stuff here. High quality stuff. Goodbye. Goodbye, Mike.